Welcome. I'm Alice Alicia Jones, and this is a continuation of my series called Living Consciously. The subject today, we are continuing on psychics that are known around the world. And the subject today is Edgar Cayce. He is known, probably, he is the most famous of the trance channels. And by that, he was known as the sleeping prophet because basically what he found as I'll go into some of his early history, but what he found is that he could lay down on a bed, gently lay his hands on his chest, and sink into a very deep state. And that caused him to be able to connect with universal mind. And as a result, he did over 10,000 readings. He had no memory of anything that he talked about, but effectively, he had a friend that acted as his stenographer to begin with until his wife took over as his stenographer. And so he covered basically 10,000 subjects. He had 10, um, just an amazing number of readings. To be exact, 14,306 readings. And he started out, he was born in 1877 in a town in Kentucky called Hopkinsville. And very early on, he, as a child, as a very small child, he could see his grandfather who had passed into spirit. And then he also had a whole cadre of imaginary friends. And he could see that these imaginary friends also came from the other side. So this is very, very early in his life. And at first, he did a number of very uh, mediocre type of jobs. He tried door to door sales. He worked in a store. And in fact, the owner of the store was that became the first secretary that took down uh, the words that were coming through him. The beauty with Edgar Cayce is that he was a very humble man, and he always credited God with this. He made one promise to God, and that was that he was going to read the Bible for every year of his life. He lived 68 years. He read the Bible 68 times. And in 19 so he was born in 1877. He transitioned in 1945. In 1931, in Virginia Beach, he started ARE, the Association for Research and Enlightenment. And every one of his readings are available. All 14,306 readings are available to the members of ARE. You can become a lifetime member, I believe, for $4,000, or you can do a yearly membership for, I think, either $300 or $400. And I do have a friend who is a lifetime member. I've toyed with it, but I just don't go there enough to merit it. But I might after this session. His readings, even though he covered 10,000 topics, his readings were uh, varied from philosophy and healing to reincarnation to dreams and dream interpretation. and psychic themes, as well as spiritual um, meditation, prayers, spiritual growth. So he effectively, like I said, though, he was an extremely humble man. And he always, the only thing that happened to him after he came out of a trance was that he was hungry. And I've discovered the same thing after doing any energy healing of any type, whether it's a healing or a reading. My feeling is I'm hungry. And so, effectively, the light that comes through you absolutely does have that effect. And I don't think I'm the only one uh, that feels that, because I feel everybody else that I know uh, that is in healing and holistic healing, he feels the same way. Um, he is actually called, Edgar Cayce is called the father of holistic health. And because when you stop to think, he brought the terminology to made it, just a very common lexicon. The terminology of spiritual growth, psychic development, uh, auras, everything to do with spirit was part of what he brought forward. I do remember reading, I didn't see that in Google this time, but I do remember reading something. There were several things that stand out for me of the 1,500 medical readings that he brought forward for anybody that wanted one, that would come and ask him a question after he was in the trance. That of that 1,500, he only got one diagnosis incorrect. And that was because the man who posed the question happened to be an identical twin. And the diagnosis that came forward was basically for his twin. So I thought that was very, very interesting. That, again, universal mind and channeling universal mind, that you're basically channeling God. Because to me, universal mind is another name for God. Um, you might read that it was the unconscious mind, uh, the higher self, also tied to universal mind. So it really doesn't matter what you call it, as long as you just know that it's a higher power that came through him. He was uh, very he actually got attention very early, because in 1910, there when he was 33 years old, he there was a New York Times headline that said, illiterate man becomes a doctor when hypnotized. So this isn't quite the what he was, but I guess in 1910, this was the best way they could explain what happened to him. Um, and I think maybe in England they had better vocabulary, but anyway, that was the headline in a New York Times article. And he basically says, for you to develop your intuition, become more spiritual. That's his advice. So, and one, I will continue this because I do have more to say about the prophecies. And I'm not going to go into the prophecies that he had, but he has had 300 books. Edgar Cayce has had 300 books written about him. His autobiography is called There Is a River, and that was by Thomas uh, Sugret, and it's one that I haven't read. What was so interesting about Edgar Cayce is because he was in a trance, he was a trance channel, he subliminated his whole area of consciousness in order for the message to come through him. He got messages of Atlantis, he got messages of the pyramids, he got messages of other ancient mysteries, and he also got messages about the everything that anybody questioned him, there would be a distinct, concrete answer, including something as broad as what are the secrets of the universe? And then more focused, what is the purpose of my life? And then even more focused, how can I help my arthritis? And I know that the few times that I have visited at ARE, I would go into the library and I would just kind of scroll through some of his readings, and they were almost there was a quality to the reading that was almost dignified. It was, you could tell that this was, yes, it was completely understandable, but there was a type of authority and dignity to the reading. And the one thing that I can remember on one of the classes that I attended, as I was sitting there, I had I guess, half an hour before the lecture started. So I went to the back and I picked up some flyers that they had. And one of the flyers had a description of Jesus. And they said that there was a Roman, and it's very little known. Um, I didn't look for it, so I can't be more specific than that. But that there was a Roman who actually described Jesus. And the one thing that is that I so vividly remembered about the description is that his hair was like chestnut colored with highlights of red and gold in it, but his eyes would effectively flash color. And they could be anywhere from a very clear blue to a gray to a green to a hazel, but that they flashed gold. And so I did remember that as part of the description, and I always felt that it's interesting, considering that Jesus was a Jew, and Jews, for the most part, Jewish men have black hair, and but the fact that his was had reddish highlights, more on the chestnut tone with golden highlights. That I just found extremely intriguing. So I do. Virginia Beach is ARE is located in Virginia Beach. It's approximately, for me, it's a 4-hour drive. For one of my German friends who breaks all the speed limits, it's a 3-hour drive. So it's very close by. If Kate, in the event that you'd like to go there to see it, I would strongly recommend that. And they offer wonderful, wonderful speakers, wonderful programs. And I know prior to COVID, they also did some overseas travel too. And so I totally recommend that you follow up on that. There is just one last thing I wanted to end with. There is a gentleman that is currently alive. His name is David Wilcox, who claims he is the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce. And in the picture of him as a very young person and the picture of Edgar Cayce as a young person at the same time, they look identical. But Edgar Cayce apparently, prior to his death, said that he would leave a list of 5 questions that anybody who claimed to be his reincarnation would have to answer. And David absolutely refuses to be subjected to those questions. He says that the information he brings forward is proof enough. And so he, like I said, he refuses to be subjected to the 5 questions. I do know one of his sons, I think it was Edgar Evans Cayce, recently passed away. I think it was 2013, and he passed away at the age of 95. But his 3 sons, especially Hugh Lynn, have done a magnificent job of keeping ARE going, and just absolutely incredible. I do thank you for joining, and on Monday, I am going to continue with this, but on Monday, I will bring forward Mary's message to the world, which is the Blessed Mother talking through Annie Kirkwood, a nurse. And the book was written the channelings were done in the 89, and the book was brought forth in 1991. And so I've got this will be totally different. And so next week is going to be concentrated a little bit more on Mary's first, her prophecies, and then the after that, what she tells us to do. And I so thank you for being here. I do encourage you to get a copy of my book, Own Your Power Day by Day. This is a channeled work. Spirit is in every word in that. Where I didn't change a single word that Spirit gave me, it's all italicized. Where I did edit it myself, then it's just regular print. It's available on my website, Alicia, ALICJA, Jones.com, and at Amazon.com. And in both of them, especially with Amazon, if you go to Starlight Power Books, that is that comes back, the order comes back to me, and I will give an autograph copy. I do that for my website, but I do that also for Amazon. I do thank you for being here, and I will see you on Monday.